Shivam Shivakaram Shantam Shivatmanam Shivottamam Shivamarga Pranetaram Pranatosmi Sada Shivam. Narayana Akhila Guru Bhagavan Namaste. Pahi Pahi Jagadvandi Namaste Bhaktavatsale. Namastubhyam 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 Namo Namaha. Shamatha. May peace, tranquility and happiness be with all of you. We are right now on the happy occasion of International Yoga Day. The entire world, all the nations have come together to recognize the importance of yoga in the day-to-day life of every individual. How blessed are we into our lives to whom yoga has been ingrained right from the day of our birth. Yoga is not simply a system for us. Yoga has been an integral part of our everyday life in this land which we are born. When a child is born into a way of life that is deeply rooted on the yogic way of life, because our culture, our traditions, our thinking, our institutions, everything have been designed, have been developed very organically from this yogic way of life. Yogic way of life is the way in which a yogi lives. Who is a yogi? In the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is posing this question to Sri Krishna about the different ways and means with which to reach God or to reach actualization. Sri Krishna very kindly talks about two ways. One is the way of jnana and the other is the way of karma. And he says, Karma Yoga is the way of the yogi. So for us, this way of life has not been taught to us. But just as a human child needs no particular training in how to walk or how to stand up, anybody who is born to this Tirtha Bhumi Bharat never had to be taught about yoga because we are born with it. Modern scientific researchers talks about how over the years our genes adapt, our genes evolve into creating a new individual, a new being who is physically as well as subtly evolving. So yoga is nothing new to us. It is in our genes. Our body, our mind is composed of this way of thinking. It took all these years for the world to recognize the importance of this great way of life, this great system. Having recognized the importance of yoga does not mean the world truly understands what it is capable of. It is the single most efficient tool of transformation. It not only transforms the body, it transforms the mind. When the body and the mind are transformed, a new being is born. A being who is not limited to the tendencies, to the needs, to the desires, to the compulsions of its physical nature, but it has a possibility of reaching beyond. This is what yoga is all about. Yoga is an exploration. Exploration deep into one's own self. Today, scientific advancements have taken us beyond the reach of this earth or its atmosphere. It is taking us to other planetary systems. With our telescopes, with our advanced capabilities, we are able to see to the limits, to the farthest stretches of the universe. We have physically landed on the moon. We are making our efforts to reach other planets within our system. All these things are happening around us. Equally fascinating is the system that you are. There are many layers to it. There are many dimensions to it. Unless you approach it with the attitude of an explorer, you will not be able to find how fascinating it is, how magical it is, or how intelligent it is. This is what yoga does to us. It creates pathways within us to open up the inherent quality of the explorer that is deeply in sleep within us. In the system of Trimurtis in the Indian tradition, in our dharma, Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh, the third one, Mahesh or Rudra, is known as the Lord of Sushupti, the master of Sushupti. Sushupti means deep sleep. Each of us, the different layers within us, is in deep sleep. Rudra is also the master, the Lord of yoga. Because you always see him seated in the deep posture of deep dhyana or absorption, deep contemplation, deep meditation. In this state, we call him as Shiva. So how do you transform the Rudra into Shiva? This is what yoga deals with. Rudra is occupied with everything that is happening around him, internally, externally. Rudra means literally the one who cries out loud. This is our experience when we come into contact with the physical world. Everything that we see, everything that we come across excites us. And where do we get this information from? Through our senses, our sense organs. When we get information through our sense organs, we get excited. The self. How do you transform this excited being into the Shiva Tattva? This is the realm of yoga. Whatever you come into contact with through your sensory inputs, whatever you gather through your senses that excites you, that makes you cry out loud, when you enter into it with the deep attitude of an explorer, you move into realms, you move into dimensions within you which can reveal your true self. The true state of a yogi is the true state of oneself. So in this 21st century, it took so much time for the world to recognize the importance of yoga. I admit that we are quite preoccupied with the physical aspects of yoga, but this is a very good beginning. Unless you begin with the body, you won't have the capacity to really dive within. Just like we explored the deeper space, the astronaut has to be prepared physically to deal with what waits for them when they move into the outer space. You cannot simply develop a space shuttle and put a few people inside that and send them to the outer space. They will have no clue how to tend for themselves, or they won't know what to do out there because there won't be anything that you are usually familiar with. So there is a lot of preparation that goes on behind the scene before somebody is launched into the outer space. So similarly, in order to develop the attitude of the explorer, a lot of preparations need to be in place. Today many people make fun of yoga, saying yoga is wrongly understood today, yoga is misunderstood. It's being brought down to the level of some exercises alone. It is true. But if we take it as a beginning, it is a great opportunity. Any days when it is dedicated world over, the purpose and the intent behind it is to create awareness. So it is up to us with this new opportunity. How do we create awareness about what the true intent of yoga is, or what yoga aims to achieve? So there is no point in simply saying that the true essence of yoga has been destroyed by limiting it to the physical nature of it. Rather, see it as a beginning. It is a preparation. Anybody who is affected by yoga on a physical level cannot simply stay there. It will lead them further into the chambers, into the different layers of what is in store there. Guidance is required, of course. Like in anything, yoga is not a space where one can just go by himself or herself. It needs guidance, it needs assistance. This is a primary point to be remembered when we are celebrating such an important occasion. We talk about what yoga is. Yoga is very clearly defined, and the clear definition that is given for it is Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Nirodha means stoppage of what? Vritti, movement. Where? In the chitta. So any movement that is taking place in the chitta, which can be spoken of as consciousness, any movement within the consciousness, any activities that are going on within the consciousness has to be stopped. This is what yoga is about, or this is what the state of yoga is about. Chitta Vritti Nirodha, the stoppage or the cessation of the activities that goes on in the consciousness. So an eightfold approach, an eightfold path is laid out for this. You cannot just one day decide that I will stop all activities, all movements within my consciousness, and then stop it. It takes training, it takes effort. So that effort or that pattern or that procedure is what is laid out in the eightfold path of yoga. It begins with yama, niyama, followed by asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyanam and samadhi. These are the 8 stages of yoga. So it lays out more like preconditions or prerequisites, yama and niyama. So we saw that yoga is all about Chitta Vritti Nirodha, or yoga is Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Yama means control, to control. So we have to place certain characteristics under control. And earlier we saw about Rudra. Under the Rudra, we saw that our sense organs, our physical motor organs, etc., our mind comes into contact with the external stimuli and get excited by those. So what does Yama do? Yama is restraint, control. Control of what? Control of the sense organs. How do you do that? By giving certain indicators to it. It begins with ahimsa, satyam, asteyam, brahmacharyam, aparigraham. These are the 5 yamas listed out in the 8-fold approach of yoga. So what does ahimsa mean? Ahimsa is the attitude of non-violence. You are not being cruel to any being. You are not opting or choosing violence as your first option. Followed by a firm commitment to what is truthful. Here, unless you exercise self-restraint, self-control, both these are impossible. It's easy to be carried away, to be reactionary. So when you talk about non-violence or ahimsa, it is not about not raising a hand. It is more about not being reactionary in your approach. And when you talk about satyam, you need to have clarity about what is truthful, what is truth. It needs a larger picture. It needs a higher vision. That is why earlier we spoke about the importance of being guided. This is followed by asteyam. It's about an approach of not being greedy, not stealing, not forcefully taking away. It comes to the aspects of not lying, not stealing, etc. Brahmacharyam. Brahmacharyam is a state which is required for learning. It denotes dedication. It pronounces the importance of a particular acharana. We spoke earlier about astronauts exploring outer space. They have to live in a particular environment, preparing themselves for the long journey. Once they reach there, they cannot take all their family along. You cannot take your entire family with your pets along with you to the International Space Station. There is no space there for so many people. So there is a lot of preparation that goes on. So in this preparatory phase, a person needs to be alone. This is, in the yogic sense, it should not be misunderstood that a person is asked to be alone always. Under the guidance, this will be carefully explained. And followed by aparigraham, non-covetousness, not taking away things, possessions, etc., that belongs to somebody else. This is again a state which has to be deeply understood under guidance. This has deep implications. So one should not be foolish to take it simply at face value or simply on the level of letters and begin to do it. So under careful guidance, one has to enter into the path of yoga. Om.